I killed daddy. That's what an 11-year-old Pennsylvania boy said, and now he's charged in the fatal shooting of his adoptive father. And why? A video game. Nick Reiner's family establishing some firm boundaries. Trump urges the media to pivot on the search for the missing mom in Arizona, Miss Nancy Guthrie. A former American Idol contestant indicted for murder. We've got this day in legal history, our quote and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications of when we go live or put up new content. Let me also remind you, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to do as many background reports as your heart desires on anyone here in the United States. The report is literally prepared while you wait, and you're going to have it emailed to you. You can even get updates if information is changed. And the reports are going to show social media presence. You're going to find out if they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, married, divorced, properties they own, liens, judgments, bankruptcies, criminal history, and yes, are they on one of those sex offender registries? Everything you want to know about somebody coming into your life. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I killed daddy. That's what an 11-year-old said, and now he's charged as an adult. Take a look at this kid. Does he killer? What does a killer look like, ladies and gentlemen? But let's go to Duncannon, Pennsylvania. Now, in a tragic case that has shocked the quiet community there in Perry County, an 11-year-old boy has been charged as an adult with criminal homicide following the alleged shooting death of his adoptive father while the man slept in the family home. Now, according to the Pennsylvania State Police and court records, the incident unfolded in early morning hours of January 13th of this year. Now, at the Dietz residence on South Market Street in Duncannon Borough. Now, Clayton Dietz, who had celebrated his 11th birthday with his parents shortly after midnight, became upset when his father instructed him to go to bed without his Nintendo Switch gaming console, which had been confiscated earlier as a disciplinary measure. Well, while searching the home for the device, Clayton reportedly discovered the keys to a gun safe located in his parents' bedroom. Police allege that he unlocked the safe, removed the revolver, loaded it with ammunition, approached his sleeping father's side of the bed, pulled back the hammer, and fired a single shot, striking the 42-year-old Douglas Dietz in the head. The bedroom, shared by Douglas and his wife, connects to Clayton's room via a closet. Now, Douglas Dietz's wife awoke to the loud noise resembling fireworks at the distinct smell of gunpowder. Upon turning on the light, she discovered her husband's unresponsive and bleeding. Court records indicate that Clayton then entered the room, stating words to the effect of, "Daddy's dead," or "I killed daddy." During subsequent interviews with investigators, the boy admitted to the shooting, telling police he was angry at the time and he had someone in mind whom he intended to shoot, his father, though he claimed he had not fully considered the consequences of his actions. Needless to say, the police responded to the residence about 3:20 a.m. following the report of an unresponsive male. Douglas Dietz was pronounced dead at the scene from the gunshot wound. Now, here's the hard part. The family had adopted Clayton in 2018. Clayton Dietz was taken into custody and formally charged with criminal homicide. And under Pennsylvania law, juvenile charged with murders are typically prosecuted as adults. He was denied bail and has been held at the Perry County prison. On February 19th, yesterday, Clayton appeared at a preliminary hearing at the Perry County Courthouse in New Bloomfield. Escorted by probation officers and wearing handcuffs and restraints along a black hoodie, the young defendant observed appearing unsteady and reportedly commented to his mother that the restraints were hurting him. He ultimately waived his right to the preliminary hearing, and his defense attorney stated that the primary objective is to seek transfer of the case to juvenile court, specifically stating that his goal is going to be to get him into juvenile court. Now, no additional court dates were set during that hearing yesterday. And more than likely, though, the proceedings will take place sometimes in May. Now, the school district where Clayton was a student issued a statement offering condolences to the family and providing counseling services to the students and staff. And neighbors described the Dietz family as very private and kind, expressing disbelief at the tragedy in this community. Now, the case has obviously prompted renewed discussions regarding securing firearm storage in homes with children. That's right. It must be the dad's fault that the 11-year-old found the keys when he was looking around for his switch. And you know, why not charge the mom? You know, dad's not here. Let's charge the mom with being negligent and basically providing a kid a gun to do this type of thing. I mean, that's where some people would go. And if you follow the logic, if the parents should be held responsible, why not in this case? It's a murder, right? Is it because it wasn't at some school? So therefore, well, maybe the parents, you know, they just didn't know. Oh, because they were asleep? Or even an 11-year-old can sneak around and not let somebody know what's going on, right? So for all the people that, you know, we talk about the, you know, unique novel theories, a gun was used. Parents should have known. 11 years old. They should have hit it better. That's negligence on their part. Charge them all, I say, right? No. But this is what happens. You have to show absurdity with absurdity, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, as this legal process continues, Clayton Dietz is presumed innocent, obviously, until found guilty in a court of law. And like I said, we'll see where this goes, whether this case gets transferred back to juvenile court, where it probably should. I get it. He's a juvenile, charged as an adult, but he's 11. Okay. And most 11-year-olds want to play with their video games. And like he said, really didn't appreciate the consequences, obviously. Tragic story all around. So many things that could come from a discussion in that particular case, indeed. Next, the Reiner family is establishing some boundaries with Nick. So obviously in the very tragic situation that captured public attention, the relatives of filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, are reportedly maintaining some significant distance from their eldest son, Nick Reiner, following his arrest of the alleged murder of his parents. Now, most people know Nick is currently held in the Twin Towers Correctional Facility in Los Angeles and has not received any visits from siblings or other family members since the incident back in December. Now, sources close to the family have indicated that the decision stems from the overwhelming grief and shock surrounding the accusations rather than the intent to punish. Now, the events unfolded in the affluent Brentwood neighborhood where Nick is accused of committing the crimes at the family home. He faces 2 counts of murder with special circumstances, though he has yet to enter any type of a plea or have a preliminary hearing. Initially, Nick was placed on the suicide watch and has since been cleared for visitors, but family members have deemed it premature to engage with him, and one insider describes the situation as grief layered on top of horror. The family stance is framed as a necessary measure for emotional survival, emphasizing the establishment of boundaries in the face of unimaginable loss. This changes everything, a source has noted, highlighting the irreversible impact because of the allegations of murder. Complicating matters is Nick's reported history of mental health challenges, including a diagnosis of schizophrenia, which the family has previously kept private. Now, the relatives are concerned that public disclosure of these details could exacerbate their distress, as they have long prioritized discretion in handling such personal matters. Now, legally, Nick's case has seen changes in representation. His prominent attorney withdrew last month, leading to the appointment of the public defender. And his next scheduled court appearance is for February 23rd on Monday. So proceedings may involve a mental health evaluation, some evidence review, and potentially a trial where the death penalty could be sought if he is ultimately convicted. Probably pretty unlikely, and that would be years down the road. Anyways, the family navigates this ordeal. Their silence toward Nick shows the complex interplay of what's going on here. You got mourning, betrayal, criminal legal consequences. I wouldn't wish this on even my worst enemy's family, indeed. And we know that Nick Reiner had been basically isolated, where the parents said, we're not going to help you out. But then they always came back and helped at the end. What would you do, ladies and gentlemen, if that was your brother or sister accused of killing your parents that everybody loved deeply, right? Would you help him out? Would you hire him an attorney? Would you go talk with him? Would you go seek answers? I mean, obviously any attorney would tell Nick Reiner not to talk about the facts of the case, which would probably be the center of the conversation, would it not? Yeah, it would be. Next on the docket, President Trump urges a media pivot as the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy, goes on. That's right. So as the search intensifies for the missing mother of Nancy Guthrie, President Trump has expressed frustration with the prolonged media spotlight on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie's mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, suggesting that coverage should broaden to include other national issues. Now, Nancy has been missing since February 1st in what police describe as a suspected abduction, prompting widespread appeals from her family and drawing commentary from obviously lots of figures. Anyway, this all began after Nancy was dropped off at her home following an evening spent with her daughter Annie and son-in-law. She failed to attend a planned virtual church service with a friend the next day, raising immediate alarms. Family members arrived to find her absent with personal items such as keys, wallet, and cell phones left behind. And then obviously we have the surveillance footage captured a masked individual equipped with gloves, a backpack, and a visible firearm holstered near the property, fueling suspicion, obviously, that there was foul play. Investigators have leveraged technology to track signals from Nancy's pacemaker, which ceased syncing with her Apple Watch on the day of her disappearance, though no breakthroughs have been reported. And I was talking to an individual that actually has that pacemaker on him. And even if they were able to detect a signal, which was very slight because it's all Bluetooth, that particular pacemaker, even if, the person who has the pacemaker has passed away, the pacemaker is still going to work and give a signal since you can't just turn it off. The battery is still going to be on. So maybe that'll lead to some sort of a clue. Anyway, Savannah Guthrie has publicly pleaded for her mother's safe return via social media, emphasizing hope and redemption, saying it's never too late to do the right thing, and we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. Now, everybody knows that if this person said, I'd like to return your mother to you, he would be promptly arrested and particularly prosecuted as well, and that'd be more severe, obviously, if she had passed away as well. So I don't see that particularly series of events taking place. Would you? No. If that guy came to me as his attorney and said, what should I do? I'd say nothing. You have no moral obligation to do anything. And legally, you could be held responsible. So unless and until they come and get you, keep your mouth shut, I would say. Anyway, obviously the White House has extended their prayers and thoughts to the family. And the president has said this is a very sad situation, but said, hey, I think it's maybe a little time to move on with some of the coverage. I've actually had several people let me know they're kind of over it because there's really no new breaking news that's taking place in this particular case. And let's face it, obviously, if this was your mother, my mother, and they went missing, do you think we'd have all of these people, the FBI, all these agencies flying around looking for a pacemaker signal? Probably not. They'd say, we're going to take all these detectives and resources and move them on. But I guess that's what happens when you're famous. So not only is there a two-tier justice system, when you get to the courts, there's even a two-tier justice system when it comes to, the investigation, so to speak. Next, the trial of Colin Gray. So the Appalachia High School shooting there in Georgia has entered a critical phase of the trial with testimony from the shooter's maternal grandmother, Deborah Paulhamas, shedding light on prior warnings about the boy's mental health and behavior. Now, Mr. Gray, who has pled not guilty to the charges, including second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter, is accused of enabling the tragedy by providing his son access to a firearm despite evident red flags. Now, as you may recall, the shooting took place back on September 4th of 2024 at the school in resulted in 4 fatalities and 9 injuries perpetrated by then 14-year-old Colt Gray, who's now 16, who faces separate felony charges, including malice murder. Prosecutors argued that Colin Gray's purchase of the AR-15 style rifle for his son constituted reckless conduct, particularly given Colt's documented history of troubled actions. Now, evidence presented includes school records showing Colt's searches for violent content such as how to kill your dad, suspensions for inappropriate drawings, and absenteeism during his 8th grade year under his father's supervision. Now, the grandmother appearance on the stand follows emotional accounts from survivors, educators, and first responders, and she reportedly expressed concern about how Colt's well-being to Colin before the incident, though details of her testimony remain focused on underscoring parental awareness and responses. Anyway, body cam footage captured on Colin Gray's immediate reaction post-shooting, where he expressed dread upon learning of the lockdown, indicating prior suspicions. Anyway, defense attorneys maintain that Gray sought assistance for his son and was unaware of any specific plans. The case parallels precedent, like the convictions of the parents in the 2021 Oxford, Michigan shooting, when they called it a unique legal theory, ladies and gentlemen, reflecting now a growing legal trend to hold guardians accountable for preventing access to weapons and high-risk situations. Why not stop there? How about the car? Kid maybe not the best driver, gets in an accident. Charge the parents. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, be careful. Every time one of these unique legal theories goes through, it just continues to expand. I know. Leave it. Tell me in the comments how I'm wrong. It involved a gun. They should have known. You shouldn't have done anything. He should have done something. I understand it. But where does it stop, ladies and gentlemen? Like I said, the 11-year-old, dad's not there to be charged. How about the mom? Maybe she should have had a better idea, a better job of hiding those keys. I mean, clearly, if this kid's up at midnight and arguing at 11 years old to play on a Switch, clearly the guy's got mental issues. Parents should have known. Anyway, we'll let you know as the trial progresses. We're bringing it to you live so you can check it out. Next, the disgraced royal faces the humiliating ordeal. That's right. Ex-Prince Andrew detained for 11 hours in the Epstein probe is a stark reveal of fortune. That's right. Former Prince Andrew, now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because he had his titles stripped of him last year, endured an 11-hour detention on February 19th, treated with the same protocols as any ordinary suspect in a criminal investigation. Now, the arrest linked to allegations of misconduct in public office for purportedly sharing classified documents with the late Jeffrey Epstein shows a significant escalation in the ongoing scrutiny of his ties to the convicted sex offender. Now, police apprehended Andrew at his residence as he prepared for a solitary 66th birthday celebration with his 7 dogs. During custody, he underwent standard procedures, including DNA sampling, fingerprinting, and mugshot photography. Experience described by a retired detective as an extraordinary fall from grace for someone once accustomed to royal privileges. Custodial conditions were unaccommodating, with no special amenities provided, highlighting the equalization for treatment under the law. Subsequent searches were conducted at the estate and his previous residence as well. The Royal Lodge extending into the early hours of February 20th as part of the Epstein-related inquiry. Now, this intensifies the questions about Andrew's past association and potential breaches of official duties. Now, while no formal charges have been detailed yet, the episode shows the legal and reputational consequences of his association with Mr. Epstein, serving as a reminder of the accountability regardless of former status. Does it not? I don't know. And remember, this has nothing to do with allegedly participating with underage children, someone under the age of 18. This had to do with providing secrets to Epstein about trade policy from England at the time. So nothing about the sex stuff yet. Next, a former American Idol contestant indicted for murder. That's right. Caleb Flynn a 39-year alumnus of the 2013 season of American Idol and a former music pastor at an Ohio church, stands accused of premeditated murder of his wife, Ashley Flynn, in a case that has stunned their community. Now, the incident occurred on February 16th of this year at their home in Tip City and has led to charges including murder, felonious assault, and evidence tampering, with Flynn currently being detained on a $2 million bond. Police allege that Flynn shot Ashley, a 37-year-old educator and volleyball coach, twice in the head while she slept in the master bedroom with their 2 young daughters and pets in adjacent rooms. Responding to a 911 call about 2:30 a.m., police found Ashley unresponsive and pronounced her dead at the scene. Investigations revealed attempts to stage a burglary, including the positioning of household items to obstruct access and concealment of a 9mm handgun used in the crime. Now, Flynn, known for his devout Christian faith and roles in worship leadership, had previously shared sentiments of deep affection for his wife in interviews, and Ashley was celebrated by her school district for her warm and dedication with a memorial fundraiser exceeding $100,000 in initial donations. Church leaders have called for prayer amid the unfathomable loss, while police emphasize the isolated nature of the event with no broader threat to the public. Now, the preliminary hearing is set later next week, with involvement from federal and state agencies in the ongoing probe. What can you do, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know about you, but I'm going to start sleeping with one eye open. Geez, we got 11-year-olds shooting people in the sleep. We got pastors shooting people while they sleep. Like I said, I'm going to sleep with one eye open. Jeez. How about this day in legal history? February 20th, 1792, the signing of the Postal Service Act. President George Washington signed that act into law, which formally established the United States Post Office Department as a cabinet-level agency under the Postmaster General. The act guaranteed the privacy of mail, correspondence, mandated inexpensive delivery of newspapers to support an informed citizenry and the free press, and empowered Congress to expand postal routes as the nation expanded. Now, that foundational statute created one of the earliest and most enduring instruments of federal authority in domestic affairs. How about February 20th, 1839, enactment of the anti-dueling legislation for the District of Columbia. That's right. Congress passed a statute declaring dueling within Washington, D.C. a felony, punishable by up to 10 years of hard labor. This was all in response directly to the fatal 1838 duel between sitting members of Congress, and sought to eliminate a practice that had become a threat to public order and dignity of the national capital. The law represented an early congressional effort to regulate personal conduct among public officials and have some standard of civility for those people in government. And then February 20th, 1905, Supreme Court decision in Jacobson versus Massachusetts. The Supreme Court, in a 7-2 ruling, upheld the constitutionality of a Massachusetts statute requiring compulsory smallpox vaccination during an outbreak. And in an opinion authored by Justice John Marshall Harlan, the court affirmed that the state possesses broad police powers to protect public health and safety, even which such regulations limits individual liberty, provided the measures are reasonable and not arbitrary. Now, this precedent has remained a cornerstone of American public health jurisprudence and continues to inform judicial analysis of government authority in matters of communal welfare. Remember, it's the state government, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the police powers? That's what's in this for the states, the police powers. Federal powers limited to the Constitution, what's specifically prescribed, but yet the feds are always getting into the general police power stuff. Leave it to the states, right? What's not specifically enumerated in the Constitution was left to the states. Next, how about a quote? One of the most frequently cited quotes of the police power reserved to the states under the United States Constitution is found in the opinion we just talked about, Jacobson v. Massachusetts. And the quote is by Justice Harlan, quote, "According to settled principles, the police power of the state must be held to embrace at least such reasonable regulations established directly by legislative enactment as will protect the public health and the public safety." So this recognizes that the authority to enact reasonable measures to safeguard the public's health, safety, and welfare is inherent and a fundamental power retained by the states rather than delegated to the federal government, which is obviously true. But if you'll notice, in any legislation that comes from the state, they always put in there the power to regulate under the police powers deemed appropriate for the state. So hopefully you learn something new every day, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal. Let's go to Clearwater, Florida. Now, some domestic arguments end with slam doors. Others end with slam jars of pickles. Meet today's undisputed dumb criminal of the day, 32-year-old Colin Blaine. Now, according to the police, Blaine and her boyfriend of 6 years, the father of their 2-year-old daughter, were arguing Monday morning about the messy state of their apartment. Now, when accused of creating the clutter, Blaine allegedly reached for the glass jar of pickles she had been snacking on around 10 a.m. and smashed it over the 34-year-old boyfriend's head. The result? A knot on his skull and pickles plus their juice scattered across the floor like a condiment crime scene. Needless to say, police arrived to find the briny aftermath. Blaine declined to speak with them and was promptly arrested for felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. That's right, the deadly weapon in question being none other than the pickle jar itself. Now, she has since been released on her own recognizance, though a judge wisely imposed a no-contact order and the victim and permitted that only one policed supervised trip home to retrieve personal belongings for that civil assist. So here on Crime Talk, we salute Colin Blaine as our dumb criminal of the day. Next time life hands you pickles, ma'am, maybe just eat them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.